guys, well, it is the start of another week, and again it's a time to look at another Z490 board. This time we turn to ASRock to see what they have to offer in this Z490 Taichi. Now, under previous generations, the Taichi has always been reserved for the high end, and that statement remains the same. To cope with the new 10-core CPUs as well as hyper-threading, ASRock has gone all out with their phase configuration and respective cooling. We get some huge heat sinks which come accompanied by a group of cooling fans. Comet Lake may not support Gen 4, but ASRock has equipped Taichi to be ready for the PCI Express 4 specification, and we also get super fast connectivity courtesy of USB 3.2x2. So this board is going to have an MSRP of around $369 in the US, $394 in the UK, and $689 in Australia. So it's not a cheap board by any means, and certainly projected to be a high-end offering for Comet Lake. Now there's a stack of boards already to choose from on the market, ready for next gen, but is this one here worth considering? Let's find out. Before we get into our review, today's video is brought to you by Corsair and the K95 RGB Platinum XT. This mechanical keyboard is the brand's current flagship, and it boasts perky RGB backlighting, a 19-zone light edge across the top of the board, as well as dedicated media keys with volume roller. There are also dedicated macro keys on the left side, and this XT has full support for the Elgato Stream Deck. So this is undoubtedly one of Corsair's most feature-rich keyboards to date. For more info on the XT, check out that link in the description. So here is the box that Taichi arrives in. It has a flip lid, giving you a bit of an insight into the board itself through that window. Then we have the significant features there on the cover, and over on the back side, a full specification of all of those features. Inside the box we have these two trays. The first one you can see is the board itself. It's really well padded there, and the second one has all of our accessories. You get an install guide, a software guide, and then inside this envelope here we have some grip ties, the driver CD, some stickers, and some promotional material. In the other compartment we get the accessories. We have a bunch of screws there for the M.2, the antenna for the 802.11ax, 4 SATA cables, an SLI bridge, and a screwdriver for the M.2. Okay, so here we have Taichi. Now for Z490, ASRock has modified the overall theme on this board. If you've seen the latest releases that are using the TRX40 and the X299 chipsets, the styling looks quite a bit different. In a general sense, I quite like the design of this, as it definitely sets itself apart from other models on the market. We get a matte black PCB with black and bronze marking the heat sinks, the ports and covers. ASRock has equipped Taichi to have integrated RGB lighting, which is situated on the Z490 heatsink, the back panel cover, and there is also a strip on the edge of the board, and that particular lighting is achieved because there is a metal backplate on the reverse. All of this lighting can be customized using the Polychrome RGB software. Taichi is the standard size for a board, and it conforms to that ATX form factor, meaning that it's going to fit inside most cases. Being a Z490 board, Taichi uses LGA 1200. This is a new socket from Intel and is specifically designed for the new 10th gen CPUs. With a new socket, you would expect to have to buy a new cooler, but that might not be the case for some of you. The mounting holes around the socket are in the LGA 1151 alignment. And so if you have a cooler for 1151, then it will fit. Just be sure to double check with the cooling manufacturer if your cooler is going to provide ample thermal performance. Now in terms of the power delivery, we have a 14-phase design with DRMOS and premium 60-amp chokes. Around the socket and board we get 12K black caps and a 2-ounce copper PCB. All of this is usually found on ASRock's high-end offerings and is designed to push the limits. Covering the VRMs we have 2 heat sinks which are joined together with a direct touch heat pipe, and ASRock has given both heat sinks active cooling. And so the top heat sink has 2 fans, and the heat sink nearer to the back panel has a single fan as well. Now these do have a threshold where they will remain silent until the system hits a specific load, and then they'll spin up. ASRock claims that the fans not only assist with the VRM cooling, but will also bring down PCB and capacitor temps. In our web review we'll be comparing this design to a stack of other Z490s, identifying whether it will make much of a difference. The concern here is obviously the trade-off with the noise. Behind the top heatsink we have the CPU power, which is an 8+8 socket. Most Z490s come with 8+4, and so we hope this has a significant impact on better overclocks. And just like other brands, ASRock are using solid pins for the connectors. Now in terms of the headers, there are a total of 8. 2 are reserved for CPU fan, and then we get 6 which are spread across the board in the center and at the bottom, and those can either be assigned as system fans or for water pumps. And for additional RGB we have 4 headers at the top and the bottom of the board, with 2 of those being addressable. Moving on to the memory, we have dual channel DDR4 support up to 128 gig and up to 4666 MHz. And right next to that DDR4 section, we have 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 headers, with one of those being a right angle connector. We also get a USB 3.2 Gen 2 header, so you'll be able to get plenty of USB support for your case, including Gen 2 Type-C. Moving on to the storage, we have 8 SATA 36G ports for any SATA based devices, and then we have 3 M.2 slots, which ASRock are keen to emphasize are ready for PCI Express Gen 4. So yes, there is PCI Express 4 hardware support on Taichi. All of those M.2s feature a corresponding heatsink. My only complaint is to get access to them, ASRock have used non-standard screws, and the entire heatsink for Z490 chip has to be removed. This could have been designed to avoid the hassle of having to jump through so many hoops. And since these screws will need to be removed from the underside of the board as well, you aren't going to be able to replace a drive while the board is within the case. Additionally, in the top area you'll see that there are 2 M.2 slots. One of those supports Gen 3 and the other is Gen 4. Use them both at the same time as they are facing each other. If we take a look at the expansion area, we have 3 PCI Express 3.0 X16s and 2 PCI Express 3.0 X1s, and the modes for the X16s are 16, 8 and 4. The top slot is the full 16 lanes from the CPU, so if you're going to be running a single GPU, then we recommend using that one. And then if you use more than one card, the mode will drop to either 8 or 4 depending on which slot you use. NVIDIA SLI and AMD Crossfire are both supported, and those 2 upper slots are both PCI Express 4 ready. ASRock has equipped these slots to have steel reinforcement and the extra anchor points. This provides extra protection for that slot, which can take quite a bit of abuse from those heavier cards. And down at the bottom of the board, we have the power and reset buttons. Those are great if you have this set up on a test bench. There is also a little switch for clearing CMOS values and the LED debug for diagnostics. To the immediate left of the PCI Express we have the audio solution, which is based around the Realtek ALC 1220 codec. Now for this we get a bunch of features which include WEMA caps, ESS 9218 audio DAC, surge protection, the separated channels and isolated circuitry. And finally we arrive at the rear panel for the connectivity. The rear IO shield is pre-attached and has some flexibility for fitting onto your case easily. And so in this area we get BIOS flash button, DisplayPort and HDMI, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports with the PS2 keyboard and mouse, the 8-channel audio with the optical out, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports with 2.5 gig Ethernet via the Realtek controller, a USB 3.2 Gen 1 port with USB 3.2 Gen 2 x 2 Type-C, and another LAN port that is gigabit Ethernet via the Intel i219 controller. And then finally those 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports. And so there is plenty of ports here, and I'm really glad to see there is no USB 2 ports. Instead we have 3.2. Quite a strange and unconventional thing to see the audio jack situated right in the middle as opposed to at the end and next to the audio components. Hopefully the USB doesn't create any interference. We haven't experienced any just yet. And it's nice to see that we've got the option there of 2 LAN ports. One of those is 2.5 gig, and also brilliant to see USB 3.2 x 2. This feature is reserved for the high-end offerings, and so it's only right that we've got it on Taichi. Alright, well that is the Z490 Taichi. This gives you a bit of an idea as to what ASRock has to offer for the high end under the Intel banner. You know, Comet Lake brings in 10-core CPUs, hyper-threading, and so this has caused manufacturers to redesign the VRM solutions for this new wave of boards. But we didn't quite expect to see something with such big heat sinks and with active cooling. Unfortunately, this does introduce some noise, but it isn't going to be a problem for most users. So from Taichi we receive a good blend of features for this new platform. Plenty of USB, and it's great to see that we don't get any USB 2 ports on this board. As I mentioned previously, it is high time for manufacturers to replace those, as ASRock has. USB 3.2 x 2 is great to see. That offers us up to 20 gigabits from a Type-C. That's nice to have at your fingertips. However, there is one particular area which I feel disappointed in on this board, and it's hopefully something that they can revise in the future, and it is the M.2 heatsink design. ASRock has used two different types of screw heads for the heatsinks, and to get access we have to remove the Z490 heatsink altogether. Now, doing this kind of thing shouldn't be expected, and it also means you can't install or replace a drive while the board is installed inside a case. However, apart from that minor complaint, the board itself is very capable, and we're excited to see how far we can push it in terms of the performance and the overclock. And so once that CPU embargo has lifted, we will reveal all of that. A web link will be added to this video very soon, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to let me know what you guys think of this board here in the comment section. Thanks very much for your continued support. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Take care of yourself, guys, and I'll see you next time.